There we are. Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to this edition of SportsView on nearmedia.tv on this Monday, the 23rd of October, 2023. Good evening, Joe Waters.
Evening, Pat. Evening, Derwynne.
Good evening, Derwynne.
Joe.
Now, we're going to start off with, I suppose, when your boyhood, I'm only speaking for myself now, when your boyhood hero starts to pass away, you probably look at your own mortality as well. But anyway, rest in peace, Bobby, or Sir. Actually, that whole England World Cup winning team were all awarded MBEs, but there were only two players knighted. That was Bobby Charlton and Jeff Hurst, was it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Jeff Hurst, yeah. Jeff Hurst now is the only one left alive. So I thought I'd start the program tonight by reading out. Oh yeah, sorry. In goals, Gordon Banks. Back four, Ray Wilson, Bobby Moore, Jack Charlton, and
George Cohen. Yeah.
Playing in front of them then was Nobby Stiles, and in front of Nobby was Martin Peters, Bobby Charlton, and Alan Paul. And up front was Roger Hunt and Jeff Hurst, and of course Sir Alf Ramsey was the manager. That was a good team. That won the World Cup in 1966. For people who are of a certain age will remember that vividly. You know, it was the first World Cup I remember getting very good coverage of, because they were our neighbours. You know, here in Ireland we were watching it, so they got substantial coverage. And of course we had a huge connection with football with England. You know, they were our place where most talented footballers, including our man here on Joe Waters, went to earn their living playing football. Anyway, he's Jeff Hurst now, Joe, you probably is the only one alive from the team.
Yeah, correct.
And it is incredible that Jack Charlton and Bobby Charlton, two brothers on the winning team. That's unusual, to say the least. I was saying to Derwynne before we came on air that the man of the match in the World Cup was who?
Was it Bally? Was the man of the match?
Alan Ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alan Ball. The Golden Boot that year, 1966, was won by, well, the Black Pearl himself, Eusebio. That was him. And they got £60 sterling each for qualifying for the World Cup. And the bonus for the winners, the winning team, which was England, the bonus, each member of the squad got £1,000 sterling winning bonus for the team. I suppose I mean it was 1966, but it still seems very small when you look at the eye-watering salaries these people get every week. You know, some of the highly paid soccer players. You know, but there's no doubt that Bobby Charlton was the pin-up man, and Bobby Moore, in my opinion. I thought Bobby Moore was fantastic. You know, I mean, Gordon, I'm trying to make up. Was there a few West Ham players under Bobby Moore?
Three West Ham players.
Bobby Moore,
Martin Peters, and Jeff Hurst.
Three West Ham.
Yeah, you had two United, Nobby Stiles and Bobby Charlton. You had one Everton, Alan Ball. Oh no, Ray Wilson. You actually had two Everton.
Ray Wilson.
Players.
Yeah.
Ray Wilson and Alan Ball.
George Cohen was
Fulham. He was Fulham.
Chelsea. When he was Fulham.
Fulham, yeah. Yeah, Fulham. Played his whole career for Fulham. And then you had Roger Hunt up front.
Who was he with?
Liverpool.
And Gordon Banks?
Was with Leicester.
Leicester City. So there wasn't that many clubs represented in the team, really, when you think about it.
Well, I mean, if you looked at the squad, you had the likes of Jimmy Armfield was at Blackpool. He got injured before the World Cup. Jimmy Armfield was actually the England captain in the lead up to the World Cup, but he got a knee injury, and that's what enabled, I think, Ray Wilson to get into the team, or George Coyne, one the other. I forget now which.
Jimmy Greaves.
But Terry Payne from Southampton was in the squad.
Jimmy
Greaves.
Jimmy Greaves.
Jimmy Greaves was
Jimmy
in
Greaves.
the squad. Yeah.
He got an injury.
Well, you know, the team that played in the final was not the team that actually started out the World Cup.
Yeah.
Jimmy Greaves actually started, and he got injured, and that allowed Jeff Hurst in. So.
And of course, we were saying, I was on to Derwynne before we came on here. Bobby Charlton scored 2 goals against France. I think was it? Yeah.
Well, I know he scored
a goal against Mexico.
Was it one he scored against Mexico? Did he score against Uruguay? Did they play Uruguay in that World Cup?
He did.
That was against Uruguay, but that was a 0-0 draw, wasn't it?
It was 0-0.
Yeah.
They had 2 wins and a draw.
Yeah.
And in that group, and what was I going to say? But Charlton was. Did you ever meet him on the field, Joe?
Never played against him. No. Met him a few times. Met him actually. He was the guest of honor at Grimsby on a Tuesday night back in the 70s when we had our first home sponsored game. And Bobby Charlton was brought over to be the guest of honor and, to add a little bit of spice to it. So, so I met him that night, and really, really nice guy. I mean, just a thorough gentleman. I've never, ever heard anybody say anything bad or untoward about him.
No, I mean, all the tributes across the board, and I was reading this morning, they all had almost the same about the character of the man,
Yeah.
Played the game hard and fair, which I wouldn't mind being described as hard and fair, but I mean, in an era where, where taking players out was a matter of fact in football. I don't mean that in a bad way, but that was the way football was played,
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at Pele in that 1966 World Cup was kicked out of the World Cup. He was injured.
He was.
And never played I think he may have appeared in maybe a couple of games, but I think he had the same happen to him in Sweden.
Well,
when he played over there.
In the 90s, that's funny that as a result of his treatment in the 66 World Cup, he did not want to play in the 1970 series. So the president himself of Brazil, can you imagine the president of the country going down to your house, Joe, to ask you to tag out for your country,
Yeah.
That did happen, and he did, and I think the manager of the Brazilian team, I forget his name, of the 1970 World Cup team. Don't know, was he appointed by the military junta at the time? I'm not sure that I saw a documentary. Right. I can't remember. Huh?
I think who was the?
I can't think of his name. But anyway,
wasn't Zagallo was the manager? Was he? Maybe he was a bit after that. I know Zagallo played in the 58 World Cup in Chile. He was part of the team there. And Zagallo has actually won, I think, more World Cups than anybody as a player and as the head coach. And he was also one of the assistant coaches when the US won it, or when Brazil won it in the US with Carlos Alberto Pereira when he was the head coach.
Yeah.
Zagallo was one of his assistants. Yeah.
And of course, it's easy to dismiss England. England, of course, in '66, as we know, they won it. But England itself, there were some fabulous English teams who could have, in my opinion, and should have won at least World Cup twice more, because they had some fabulous teams. But you must have, and I'm not decrying the fact they didn't. Not alone must you have the squad, you must have luck on your side as well. You know.
Oh yeah, I mean, you have to have a bit of luck with it. I mean, there's
And I
nobody
think
wins any tournament without that.
England lost out of that because of bad luck in a few matches.
Yeah,
And
I mean, they've had bad luck. You know, I mean, their 1970 team that went to Mexico.
yeah,
That was probably even a better team than
66.
one in '66, and
Yeah,
they were just unfortunate. I mean, they're beating Germany 2-0, and they have the game in hand, and you know, Sir Alf makes a tactical decision that he wants to save Bobby Charlton for the
fine.
semi-final, I think it was, and of course that allowed them Beckenbauer, who was man marking him, to have a free rein, and they turned the. But I mean, it was so unfortunate because Gordon Banks came down with a bad stomach ailment, so he couldn't play, and Peter Bonetti had to take his place, and Peter Bonetti gets castigated for that, but it wasn't Peter Bonetti's fault.
No,
It's just
no,
one
no.
of those things.
No, we're
I mean,
talking.
can you imagine being thrown into a game of that magnitude at the last minute? You
Yeah.
know, and I mean, it was just unfortunate. I mean, that back header that Uwe Sailor scored for I think either the tying goal or the winning goal was just, I mean, it was out of this world. He had no business being able to score that goal.
No, we were talking there, Derwynne, that England, there's some England teams could have and should have won the World Cup far more than one time, but through a combination of bad luck and you must have good luck as well as skill to win a World Cup. England were denied that, in my opinion. They had some cracking teams. The year that Beckham was sent off, that your man got him sent off, that he fooled the referee.
Simone.
Yeah, against Argentina.
I mean, England had a cracking team that time, and I dare say they could have won that World Cup as well. You know?
Yeah, they could have done that one. I mean, then they lost to Argentina in Mexico in, what was it, '86 to the hand of God.
Hand of God.
Yeah, and then they lost in a shootout to the Germans in
Italia.
Was in Italia.
Italian, because that was our first time qualifying for the World Cup. I'm talking about the Republic of Ireland.
Yeah.
Italia 90, when the whole country went to Italy. You know, there was nobody around. I remember that.
It's funny, isn't it? Because whenever I hear Ness and Dormer being sung,
yeah,
I just instantly go to 1990 World Cup.
Yeah.
Because I think it was ITV played it as their the theme tune to every match.
Yes.
Which song was that?
Ness and Dormer.
Oh yeah.
Ness and Dormer.
Well,
every time I hear Ness and Dormer, I think of penalty shootouts. It's funny, isn't it? What you remember?
Yeah, what you remember.
I was saying to Pat earlier on, Joe. Obviously growing up in Wembley. I mean, we're probably 500 yards away from the stadium.
Yeah.
So I got taken to an England game when I was 4 years old. So 1967 was my first England game. And there's a fantastic documentary on BBC iPlayer about Charlton. And they show lots of his England goals.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and you think to yourself, wow, I was at that game. I remember that. And I remember my dad saying to me, oh, they just need to give the ball to Charlton.
Yeah.
we were behind the goals in Block H, which was the opposite end of where the tunnel was.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it was on. If you looked from the dugouts or from the benches, it was on the right hand side of the stadium.
Right.
So as a kid, I used to get plonked up onto the top of the bar on the second tier, right behind the goal, and I had like a little seat for the whole of the game. But you'd literally stand there and you could just about see the players their heads coming up the tunnel. And like it was the far end of the ground that saw the teams first, not the tunnel end.
Yes, yes.
And it's funny what you remember, isn't it? I watched that program and I was like having loads of flashbacks. I mean, I don't remember it, but I got taken up to Lancaster Gate Hotel in my mum and dad's arms, basically, as a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't even that. I was 2.5 when they won the World Cup. Because all the relatives were up from Wales. And literally everybody we drove into London that night and we parked somewhere around the back of Mayfair and walked across sort of towards Lancaster Gate Hotel, which is where they were on the balcony with the trophy. And I was there. You know, when you kind of go, well, I was there. Yeah, I was 2.5 years old. I don't remember any of it. But it's funny what you think about it. And I kind of went all the way through the 60s watching every England game at Wembley. And you kind of, at the time, you don't really appreciate it, do you? That
No.
the team playing in front of you.
I mean, you're dead right. And the memories, I mean, I'm the eldest of my family. I remember I sent you before Joe being an Irishman as well. Sorry, no, we're talking about hurling. One of the greatest hurlers in my dad's time was Christy Ring. He was on everybody's lips. I remember being on the bar of a bike, cycling from outside Mallow to Fermoy to a league match in 1959 between Waterford and Cork. And Waterford were the All-Ireland champions, Joe. As you know, that was the last time they won the All-Ireland in hurling, Waterford. And all the kids that time were put into the sideline. You know, when we got to the match, we were all put into the sideline with our soggy tomato sandwiches and our bottle of milk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Funny.
It was amazing what was allowed back in those days.
Came over to our side of the pitch to pick up a ball one time. And of course, as a child, as a young fella, you think, God, this guy has huge hands and his biceps are huge. Of course, being in the foul, you had to be strong to survive, but he was strong as a bull. He never drank or smoked in his life, and he trained every day, Christy Ring. He was the first hurler to win 8 All-Ireland medals on the field of play. But he was stunning. So it's amazing what you remember, you know. Remember him. I remember him getting a belt of a hurler, getting cut as well. But lots of players got cut during the match then. You don't see so much now because they wear a helmet, you know. The ball is lighter. The hurleys are lighter as well. They were heavier then. And of course, there's a wet day. I mean, the hurley was as heavy as the ball. And if you got a belt of it, you knew it, you know. But anyway, like you're saying, Derwynne, it's funny what you remember.
It's amazing what flashbacks you have, isn't it?
What you can recall.
I remember walking back home after the famous England-Poland game. And like I said, we were 500-600
74, was it?
Yeah, Tomaszewski.
Yeah.
And Norman Hunter mistimes the tackle on the halfway line and he's gone, isn't he, right?
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and I remember, I mean, we were like 600 yards. We're a 3-minute walk from the stadium.
Yeah.
And you stand there walking with your dad. You know, I'm 11 years old.
Yeah.
And he's going, oh, they miss Greavesy, and he was naming all these other players that he grew up watching.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean, it's just funny what you remember.
I remember watching that match on television. You know, that England-Poland match. You know, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, I mean, to be honest, it was the most one-sided game you probably ever watched. Because England, I mean, the only problem with England is if they were still out there, they probably wouldn't have scored because it was one of those nights. Tomaszewski had a great game. You know, unfortunately,
he picked the wrong guy.
Norman misjudged on the corner flag, and you know, maybe Peter Shilton could have done a bit of a better job with getting down to the shot. But I mean, that was a great Poland team, though. You know, you had Gadoka and Mato, Kazdena, Who was the big blonde centre back that they had?
Boniek. Was Boniek on that team?
No, that he was down. He was a bit.
That's about 20 years later. That is.
Was
yeah,
it?
he was after that. Yeah, there was Gorgon. I think was the centre half's name that played in for them that year. But
in that year, the Netherlands made the final.
Yeah.
The Johan Cruyff and the Van der Kerkhoff twins and Neeskens and all of them.
Nice.
Oh man, what a team they had!
It's amazing.
But you look at the German team. What kind of a team they had?
Good team.
They had Beckenbauer. They had
the German player
Paul Breitner.
Paul Breitner. I was going to say
good Muller.
Good Muller up front. Gerd Muller up front. Trying to think who else they had that was.
Funny you say about Paul Breitner because
they would have had Stettmeyer in goal as well, wouldn't they?
Probably had Stettmeyer, yeah, because that was around the time that Bayern Munich were really making inroads into Europe and winning in Europe.
When Liam Brady, actually, I was listening during the week. Liam Brady, he's a book out to be worth a present for Christmas for someone. But Liam Brady, when he wanted to leave Arsenal, his agent, the first port to call was Bayern Munich. And the deal was more or less done, as Brady said, for him to go to Bayern Munich from Arsenal. But at the time, Paul Breitner was playing centre-back for Bayern Munich. And they wanted him to stay on for a few more years, Paul Breitner. And he said, the only way I'll stay on is if you put me in. I want to play midfield to prolong my career. I want to play midfield for Bayern Munich. That's the position that Liam Brady was going to be brought over to fill. But luckily enough, his agent had good contacts, so that's how he wound up going to Juventus instead. And you look at the players he played with in Juventus, they were just who's who of Italian football. But
that documentary, guys, about Charlton on BBC. It was really interesting because there was lots of interviews with Charlton reminiscing. And they said to him about what was your instructions before the 66 World Cup? And he said Ramsey came up to him the day before and said, wherever Beckenbauer goes, I expect to see you standing next to him or running next to him. End of story. Just there, right? And in the same interview, the interviewee turns around and says, and did you? And he said, no, it was really funny. He said, because kicked off, he said, Beckenbauer ran straight from his position and stood next to me. He said, where I went, he went. He said, so I didn't have to worry about where he was because he was always literally on my hip.
Yeah.
He said, so I played 90 minutes or 120 minutes. He said, the most bizarre thing was I didn't have to go looking for Beckenbauer because Beckenbauer was like tied to my boots. He
Beckenbauer,
said, literally, he said
he was a good. Yeah.
And he just ran straight to Charlton, and that was it. He said, wherever I went, he said, I wasn't even sure when I went down the tunnel if he'd actually left me alone.
Was he the first player to win as a player and a coach the World Cup? Beckenbauer, was he?
I think he might have been.
I think he was, yeah.
I think he might have been, yeah.
But
if you think about it, it could only have been a Brazilian or an Italian or a German.
Yeah, it must have been.
Would have got into that position, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. The years that Brazil won it were 52 or 54, 58. 58, 62, 70. They won it.
That was Italy. 82.
When did they win it? When did they win it again? They won it. They won it in the US in
94.
And then they won it in. Did they win it in 98 as well? Trying to think where it was, but I know that. Gosh, I'm trying to think now.
No,
but I think I think you're right. I think
It was in Brazil, and they were destroyed.
well, they were destroyed by Germany. What was it,
Yeah.
7-1 or 7-0?
Oh my Jesus! It was unreal.
They've never won the World Cup at home.
I don't think so.
No, they haven't. They played in the
amazing when
final
you think
against
about it.
Uruguay, and they lost 2-0 to them. And it was like a day of mourning. I saw a documentary on the about the Uruguay beat them in the final 2-0 at the Maracana.
Yeah, didn't they win the first two World Cups, Uruguay?
Yeah, they did.
They won the first
And
two.
the guy that scored the 2 goals said that he said there are only 3 people that have ever silenced the Maracana. He said the Pope, Frank Sinatra, and me. He scored the 2 goals.
Start
He scored 2 goals that beat him.
Good company, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Well, getting back to the
That's funny,
Premiership over the weekend, there was wins for Liverpool, Wolves, Brentford, Man City, Newcastle, Man U, and Villa. And of course, Joe, Luton came back from 2 down to draw.
Yes.
I'm holding on to something, lads. Come on, we're holding on to something.
Yes.
And,
no, they came back. They did great.
They did.
I mean, they did great. I watched it.
I think they're beginning to find their feet a little bit.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But Leicester won 3-1 at home to Swansea. Leicester City.
Yeah.
So they're still top of the championship. And
Leeds came back from 2-0 down to beat Norwich at Norwich.
They did, yeah. They did. So
And
they're looking...
Southampton won at Hull with the last kick of the game, I think it was.
Yeah.
So... those games were good games.
I saw most of the Liverpool match, you know.
Yeah.
Most of the Liverpool match. They're finding it hard to score. You know,
but I mean, to be honest, they had a lot of opportunities.
Oh, they had their creative opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, and Everton defended really well. I mean,
they did.
The lads were throwing their bodies in front of the ball and what have you. So. It's just, no, they deserved to win the match. I mean, they were the better team, I thought. Of course, you have the controversy about Konate, should he have been sent off and what have you for a second bookable. But it's like I said a few weeks ago, and when they're all up in arms about the Spurs game, they lose that one. And I'm a firm believer that over 38 games, everything evens itself out.
It does.
And this one evened itself out as well. They got a break on this, and then they went and scored at the other end, and that's the way it goes. So it's just.
I don't like that. I don't like the crowd shouting to give him a yellow card.
No,
we know he was on a yellow card, but that's up to the ref. The ref can deem something a foul, but not a foul that deems to be given a card,
Right.
The Spurs are going ahead against Fulham as we're on here tonight. Guess who scored?
Son.
Yeah.
There's a shock.
And they're playing again Friday night. Spurs, they're playing again Friday night in the Premiership.
Oh, what?
They are, yeah. I was looking at it
quick
today.
turnaround.
Yeah. There's some match they missed. I know what it was. It was some match abandoned or postponed or something. But anyway, they're out twice this week. It'll be good for them now. They'll be nice and refreshed as that. But anyway, the Premiership is still turning out. Newcastle to me are looking good, looking settled. Newcastle United, I think they're a good bet to finish in the top 4. I know we're very early days, but they're looking a very solid team. Aston Villa are playing very well, Derwynne, as you were saying beforehand.
Yeah, Villa looked good, didn't they? I mean, they did look good. I mean, West Ham were a bit poor, but I mean, the passing, West Ham. I'm not sure about this Paquetá or whatever his name is. I mean, I don't know. Did you see any of it, Joe?
The man.
I did watch it. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, his passing is shocking, and his decisions, and he just looks wrong, doesn't he?
What about the controversy during the week and going on for a few weeks now? That who's the manager of the England team? I can't think of his name.
Gareth Southgate.
Southgate, yeah. Him not picking James Ward-Prowse.
Well, if the problem with being the England manager is that you have a wealth of talent at your disposal, and you cannot pick them all. You just can't pick them all, and so okay. So if he doesn't pick James Ward-Prowse, or if he picks James Ward-Prowse, who does he not pick? Phil Foden or James Maddison?
Madison.
Two top class players right there. We'd give our right arm to have any one of those guys Irish and be playing for us. So it's just the same as everything else. You have to have balance in the team. That's why Jeff Hurst and Roger Hunt were partners in the '66 World Cup, because they worked better together than Roger Hunt and Jimmy Greaves did. And that's why Jimmy never got back into the team at the time. Jeff Hurst came and gave a better balance to it. And I think
he proved it. He proved it anyway.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he got the goals in the finish. So, it's all a matter of opinion, and it all depends on where you're located, and how.
If you think about it, Joe, with England, they've probably. I'll say this comment and then ask you a question. So if you think of the England selection issues, they've probably got 5 players for every single position on the team. And if you think about it, say with the Republic of Ireland don't have 5 players for every position.
No, we don't have 1 player for every position.
Well, we do have 5, but we don't have 5 top class players for every position.
Yeah,
England. You look at it, and you got Kyle Walker at right back.
Yeah.
You got Kieran Trippier at right back. You look at that. You got Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back that can play there. You got who are some of the other ones that are Ben White at Arsenal can play right back.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 4 guys that are with 4 of the top teams in the country right there. And so we don't have that luxury. You look at the England centre halves, what they've got. You look at the England left back, maybe there's not that many left backs, but there's certainly a lot of really good ones, and far better than what the Irish team has to choose from. So I mean, you look at Scotland, you got Tierney, and you've got Robertson from Liverpool fighting it out for a spot. So it's
they're qualified now for the European Championship, Scotland.
Yeah,
and be interesting. Of course, we're all looking forward to that. We're hoping that Scotland will be drawn in the same group as England to be a really good. I don't think they'd beat England, to be honest.
But I mean, it's the age old. We saw it. We've just witnessed it in the Rugby World Cup. What can happen on any given day? I mean, look at Ireland beat South Africa, and South Africa are in the final now. So it doesn't.
That's a nice cue to get onto the rugby before we finish up. Before we don't have time. In the Rugby World Cup, as you know, Argentina 6, New Zealand 44. No match. England 15, South Africa 16. So it's New Zealand versus South Africa. But I gave up on the Argentina match because Argentina got no score from play in the match against New Zealand. They got 2 penalties. They got just 6 points. So New Zealand really weren't tested at all. And is that a good thing or a bad thing for the final? I don't know. It remains to be seen. It'll be on next Saturday night anyway. But South Africa, England played very well, extremely well. There's little consolation to them that they're not in the final. But I thought Courtney Laws, to me, played his finest game ever for England, in my opinion. And I'm not a rugby expert, but to me, he was head and shoulders above anything on the pitch Saturday, watching him against South Africa. George O'Keefe from New Zealand, the referee, was shocking. Shocking for both teams, but a little bit tougher on England. And he gave that penalty that he gave to South Africa to edge them close to make it a one-score game. That was proved afterwards that there was no penalty. He said he was holding on the ground. The very minute he fell, the ball was pushed away. He pushed the ball away from himself. O'Keefe gave the penalty way, way too early. He'd just fallen on the ground. So that was one appalling decision. And O'Keefe destroyed another game as well in the World Cup. And I don't know why he got that one anyway. England can hold their heads high. It's no consolation to them, but they were the only team from this side of the world that were in the semi-finals. All the other three were from the Southern Hemisphere, so it's the Southern Hemisphere final. Against the two farm teams, I suppose you must say, in rugby, but I have a feeling New Zealand will obliterate South Africa in the final. I have that feeling, you know. They're saving themselves for this match, you know. And
I wouldn't disagree with you on that. I mean, it may be a closer game than obliterating them, but I think that New Zealand are primed for this. New Zealand, I think, can handle. South Africa just seems to me to be a team that
tired.
They're just so unpopular for their tactics and what they do. But then again, you know, you have to look at the way they play, and it's effective for them, and it gets them results. And you know, and it's like nobody likes us, and we don't care, and that's the end of it. You know, which
yeah. And I think that the United Rugby Championship started over the weekend. I don't know that anybody knows it. It's unfortunate that it started on this weekend, you know. But anyway, Ulster won against Zebra 40-36. Connacht beat Ospreys, which was a surprise, 34-26. Munster beat the Sharks 34-21 to a very, very good crowd in Thomond Park. And Leinster lost at home to Glasgow. Surprise, 24-43. So it's up and running. And then Formula One, guess who won? Verstappen won. Do you know, it must be the most antiseptic of all the sports to look at. Not because of the fact that Red Bull are so dominant, but the rules of Formula One is such that you can hardly overtake a car now, but you'll be penalised. You know, 5, 6, 7 seconds, whatever they penalise them. It's completely bonkers.
Why was Lewis Hamilton disqualified? I missed that part of it.
Because the stabilizers underneath the car had worn down too much or something during the race. I have no idea. I couldn't make head nor tail of it. I think they're making up these. Do you remember the old lucky bags you get in the shop, Joe? You get these little vignettes of wise printed things. I think they're pulling them out of the way. Oh, this looks like a good rule. We'll use this. It is.
Get them out of the Christmas packers, aren't they?
Yeah.
We'd send them all a selection box of Christmas.
Yeah, right.
But it is just so boring to watch it.
It's shocking.
I mean, I've gone from quite. I'm into sport, so I'd watch bloody two flies going up the wall if there were a league match. But you sit there and I can't watch it anymore because it's just
it's appalling.
It's just tedious, isn't it?
It is tedious.
You nearly want them all to crash at the first bend. I know that's wrong to say crash, you know, but that's the only part of the excitement, because once the one's got away, he's got away. Unless his car breaks down, and they don't break down anymore, really, do they?
No, they don't. They're all run by computer, you know. I find
I just don't quite get it.
Well, anyway, I didn't watch it, needless to say. I'm just reading out the result because there's 18.
Yeah.
There's 18 Grand Prix uh, completed now in the series. I don't know how many Grand Prix are running. I think there's 24 or 25. Is it? Anyway, there's 18 of them gone, and Red Bull have won 17, and Ferrari has won 1. So there you go.
But I mean, what was it? Just think back to Michael Schumacher when he was driving.
Yeah.
How many were won by his team during that period of what did he win? 8 in a row or 7 in a row? Something like that.
He won 7, didn't he?
7, yeah.
Did he
And
pass
then
out? He passed out.
Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton won what, 7 in a row as well. He
6?
was going for, was it 6 in a row or 7 in a row he won?
I think, yeah.
I thought he was going for 8 when they kind of knocked him on the head for it. But
they changed the rule. They changed the rules.
But it's always been, it seems like Formula One recently, when I say recently, last few years, has been dominated by one team or another.
Yeah.
And they've won consistently over a period. And then
another team. And now it's Red Bull.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's going to happen. But in the golf over the weekend, the Zozo Championship was won by Colin Morikawa. And he was overdue a win. Minus 14, 64, 73, 66, and 63. Anyway. The Andalusia Masters in Spain was won by Adrian Moronk of Poland. Minus 16, 72, 68, 60, a double pairs of 66s in the Saturday and Sunday. And one of my favorite golfers in the ladies, the BMW Ladies Championship, Minjee Lee won it. I was delighted. She's a fantastic character, 64, 69, 71, and 68. Anyway, she won it in the playoff from Alison Lee, no relation. And the Women's Indian Open was won in by Aline Kranter from Germany. Is golf big in India? I suppose it is, Derwynne, is it?
Yeah, it's very wealthy man's game.
Is your man from India, Lahiri?
Yeah.
Is he? He's playing with Liv.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's speculation that there might be. What's this thing, Derwynne? Now that you're here, you're the man to ask. I was reading about it, but I can't make head nor tail of it. Maybe it's my brain is just gone, really. Probably gone a long time. But this new series that they're talking about, that Big Mouth is running, McElroy. This team series. What's that about?
Well,
your man said to him on the interview, he said he was tagging McElroy. What are you talking about? He said, so you only play 22 or 23 weeks a year anyway. So what's the big deal about putting in an extra?
I think what they're all trying to. It's not 100% sure that this Saudi backed, as in the public investment fund, is actually going to pair up with the US tour anymore, because there's so much.
There's doubts about it.
Yeah, there's so many issues around it because obviously I think they're trying to control something. Moynihan has already worked himself into, I'm controlling it. Liv is obviously chipping away at it as well. Greg
Norman said he's going to know her.
Yeah, the world ranking points is just...
That's a big blow.
Just a shambles. And I think it wouldn't shock me if Saudi backed out of the arrangement.
With Liv?
It's not secured yet.
No. And they're talking to a few more golfers, the Saudis.
Yeah, well, I think what you might get is Liv might just drag in more players.
If Liv take in...
If they do, they're obviously going to start becoming bigger than the US tour.
True. And if that happens, what we call the 4 majors will be in serious trouble if, say, 10 or 15 out of the top 20 golfers cannot participate. from the point of view of spectators, of money, sponsorship, they'll be seriously affected. You know?
Well, I think if Liv grows bigger by having the Saudis sort of back them more than backing this PGA Tour deal, then you are. I mean, I think Rahm would move across. I honestly do. I don't think Rahm is. And I think there's a lot of American players who are totally fed up with what's gone on.
True.
You know, you've got McIlroy now who's trying to create his own little mini series of events.
But what is that?
With Woods backing it as well. So Moynihan's little voice pieces have all kind of started to shrink back into the woodwork, haven't they?
They're not enthusiastic anymore. And I think
No.
the deal has cooled very much so.
But I think you've also got the fact what you just said about the majors. I think if Liv pull in another half a dozen players, named players,
yeah,
of which there are rumours rife about who's having conversations right now. If they did, I think you're right. I think the Masters will always be the Masters. I don't think that gets affected by anything.
No,
because that's an invitation. If they want to invite Brooks Koepka, they'll invite him. He's entitled to go. He's won it.
Yeah, the Masters is a different kind of fish, you're right? Because
I think
they do their own thing.
The Open. I think the Open is the one that would probably be able to go. Well, right, we need to sit down because they're the governing body.
Yeah,
I think they could have the clout to go. We've all got to sit around the table and work this out.
I think what happened over the weekend and last week about the world ranking points will completely split the golf down the middle because the guys are happy enough playing for the money, the big money. That's their job. But the fact that there's no ranking points now, I think we'll have
the one major that's in danger is the USPGA.
Yeah.
The US Open, because you've got the USGA and the RNA so, in bed together. I think, one of those moves, the other one goes with it and vice versa. I think the Masters it's just irrelevant. They're a rule to themselves.
Yeah. They're a standalone.
And I think the PGA is the one that if anything was to suffer, it'll be the PGA because it's not that attractive. It's not really run by the PGA of America. It's run by the PGA Tour. No, the US PGA Tour run it.
All right. Didn't McIlroy skip that 1 year?
I can't remember.
Did he get fined $3 million for that or something like that?
Yeah, he skipped it 1 year. I remember him.
Yeah. But I mean, Derwynne, wouldn't they? I mean, the Open and the US Open I think you're absolutely right. The PGA is the one that's the biggest danger here of becoming irrelevant, because with the British Open and the US Open, they can make it all invitation.
Yeah,
they can change the rules anytime they want.
Yeah,
you're right. They can make it invitation. That'll be it. That's fine then. But what could happen?
Let's face it, they already made the mark in the sand last year with saying about Liv players. If Liv players qualify, they can come and play.
Yeah,
right.
So they've already made their mark in the sand. Really,
they have, and they won't be affected no matter what happens now. Because they made.
Well, the two things. The PGA Tour and the Ryder Cup are the two big things that are in danger here. Because
definitely.
If more Liv players go over there, then it becomes not even a competition anymore because these guys are not interested.
Well, if you think about it, Joe, that Ryder Cup that's just gone was a little bit of a one-sided affair when you look back on it.
It was.
A little bit. I mean, I'm not saying it was a foregone conclusion because it wasn't.
Right.
But if you watch that press conference with the American team after the Ryder Cup, that Sunday afternoon when they lost, they were more interested in trying to get on the coach to get back to their private jets to get off.
Yeah.
And they didn't really seem, if you look back at a Ryder Cup team from the 90s when they were losing all the time, that press conference from the 90s, they were 12 very pissed off blokes sitting there.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when you watch the last Ryder Cup press conference, having lost, they were larking around and quite happy. They didn't really care.
No, they were all smiles at the end.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, look what happened when Phil Mickelson threw what's his name under the bus? Oh God, Tom Watson under the bus as the captain.
Yeah.
When he called him out on some of his decisions, I mean, that's when it was competitive, and they were hurting then.
But he was right, Joe, to do it.
Oh yeah,
but
you have to have a little bit.
This last press conference, they didn't really care. It was not 12 guys who just had their asses kicked.
No.
And to be fair, they were beaten by
there
was a few guys in that team that are not. They're not household names, are they?
Robert McIntyre came of age in the cup.
Yeah.
He had a good tournament at the Andalusia Masters. He played well without,
But I do think the PGA of the US PGA Championships and the Ryder Cup, like Joe just said, they're the two that are in the biggest danger of this whole thing kind of drifting away. Because those live guys aren't leaving live. You don't hear any of the live players saying, I want to get back on the US tour.
Now, lads, just before we finish, tomorrow night in the European Champions League, well, that's a misnomer because then all champions are playing in the Champions League. But anyway, that's what they're calling it. Man United are playing Copenhagen at home tomorrow night. Arsenal are at home to Sevilla. And Newcastle are at home to Borussia Dortmund. And Man City have their practice match against the young boys of Switzerland in that group. Right as well. So then on next Saturday we have Man City and Man United.
I don't even want to watch it. I don't know if I could bring myself to watch it.
Why?
Well, I think the only thing that's helping that right now is that City are not firing on all cylinders right now.
No.
I mean, this is a bit like last year where they're moving along, they're doing fine. They're not, they're top of the table, but they're not blowing people away, and they're not at the stage where the rubber needs to hit the road and we need to get some wins under our belt to get this thing going. So I think that from that standpoint, they have enough. United have a chance, but I watched United yesterday against Sheffield United, and I wasn't that impressed with them.
But there's one.
Although they had some good opportunities, but
there's one or two of their players coming back into form. McTominay is back into form. He's been scoring for Scotland as well. So McTominay, that's a plus. I'm not saying they're going to beat Man City, but I think that they have an outside chance of it.
Oh, anytime you play a game, you've got a chance, right? I mean, you just need somebody to score a goal like Rooney, and that's the end of it. An overhead kick into the top corner against the run of play, and you're flying. But that's not.
Bring back Eric.
yeah, indeed. So I mean, I still think that it may be a better game than we think. I mean, United is still obviously a work in progress with settling guys in, the new guys in, and trying to find some kind of rhythm and form for them that they're going to.
I think Ten Hag's honeymoon is over now, and he has to ignore. He certainly has to ignore the newspapers and the commentaries like our own. He has to get down to brass tacks now and earn his salary as a serious manager. And this will be the first big asset test for him against Man City next weekend. And Villa, I see, are at home to my team, next weekend to Luton Town. So that'd be an easy win for Luton. I think, Derwynne, you'd agree with that, would you?
I'm not sure I'm not sure he wants to comment on that one. He doesn't want to upset you.
I'm waiting for Man United to come to Kenilworth Road. We'll do a special on that. We'll do a special.
Yeah, there you go.
If Man United lose to Luton, I might just start supporting Liverpool. I don't mean that. I couldn't.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first. Thanks, lads.
No, I couldn't do that.
Brilliant night again. Thanks very much for your time. And
no worries.
So from Derwynne, Honan, from Joe Waters and myself, till we meet again next Monday night. Next Monday is a bank holiday here in Ireland, but I'll be down at the Cork Jazz Festival if anyone wants to say hello to me next week. I'll be back for the Monday, but there you go. I'm looking forward to seeing Kurt Elling from Chicago, one of the best singers in the world today. So pick up a CD by him, lads, or Google him or something. But anyway, until we meet again next week, from Pat, Derwynne, and Joe on SportsView. Take care, lads, and good luck.
Good night, lads.
See you, boys.